You know, I came into this wanting to be a doctor. Once I was on that path, I started wondering about medical communications, but my desire to practice and to see patients has not changed. And I always said that if you're on the news talking about health, you better be in an office somewhere doing it.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry. You're getting real life insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
What's good? Dr. Nee here. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Docs Outside the Box. Let's get straight to this episode. So listen, we have all done it. I'm talking about spending a crazy amount of time in the surgeon's or physician's lounge. You know what I'm talking about. Talking with your colleagues, you're in between cases, you're doing notes, you're dictating, or more than likely watching TV between cases or what have you. And you're either on CNN, you're on Fox, CNBC, MSNBC, and my favorite, ESPN. But for the most part, outside of ESPN, there's usually some type of segment on that's related to medicine, related to health, and there's a physician on there. And I can pretty much say that my next guest has pretty much been on every major network on TV. So if you haven't seen my next guest on TV, then damn it, you are living under a rock. You need to get out more. You need to stop doing as many cases. I'm just joking, but my next guest is out there like that. My next guest is Dr. Jennifer Caudle, and she is the popular and the regular on-air expert for a multiple amount of shows and networks. I'm talking about the Today Show, the Dr. Oz Show, CNN, Fox News. She's been on Rachel Ray. She's been on Steve Harvey. I mean, literally at one point, Steve Harvey had a TV segment literally trying to help her get a man at one point. You got to check it out on YouTube. It's pretty funny. She's been on PVS. Currently, she practices family medicine, and she is an assistant professor in family medicine at the Rowan University School of Osteopathic Medicine in South Jersey. Now, at the end of this episode, I got a really good feeling that you're going to find her to be very down to earth, very relatable. I'm not going to front. Basically, she's cool as F, right? So she came by the show to talk about her path from very humble beginnings in Iowa. I'm talking about back in the day, she was rocking a Jerry curl. If you don't know what a Jerry curl is, make sure you type that up, look that up on Wikipedia. There's an article on that. So talking about her humble beginnings in Iowa to literally getting all the way to becoming Miss Iowa in 1999 and even competing at the 1999 Miss America pageant. You can see all this on YouTube. It's pretty cool. To now where she is, where she's taking care of patients and now being a regular TV medical contributor. She's definitely a doc outside the box. Now, things that you're going to pick up in this episode are the importance of seeing people who look like you in order to find inspiration. She's going to talk about some of the doubts she had about herself in medical school. And then things that you want to pick up also are her advice for getting a foot in the door with trying to become a TV medical contributor. And then we're going to talk about what to pitch, right? And how she offers her pitches to different TV executive producers on different networks. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you listen all the way to the end of this episode. There's also a great giveaway that me and Dr. Jen Caudle are doing in conjunction. So make sure you listen. I want you to share this with someone who would benefit from this episode. Also, hit me up on social media at Dr. Nee Darko. So without further ado, I present Dr. Jen Caudle. Let's get it. I am so excited to have one of the most visible physicians in America on my show. I have Dr. Jen Caudle. Welcome to Docs Outside the Box. What's up? What's good?
Well, thank you so much for that welcome. And I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. We definitely want to learn a ton from you. Obviously, we want to learn about you living your life outside the box, being a board certified family physician, but also at the same time, as I said before, being on TV, being on print media, being on, television and the internet. I want to understand how you're able to balance that lifestyle, and maybe if you can drop some knowledge on how we, the listeners, can get to that point also.
Sure, no, I'm excited.
Before we get into all of that great stuff, let's take it back a little bit. Let's learn more about, before Dr. Jennifer Caudle became Dr. Caudle, let's learn about you, let's say in the 5th grade, 6th grade. Who were you? What was your personality like? Did you get picked on? All of that.
Yeah, I was the ultimate nerd, and it wasn't just in the 5th and 6th grade. That lasted for years and years. I was born and raised in Iowa, and we had a great experience growing up in Iowa. There aren't many Black more than you might imagine. So I was mostly in an environment that didn't look like me. But again, my experience was good, but I was awkward. I was an awkward child. I was kind of nerdy. I was into music, band, orchestra geek, that type of thing. I was into school, and my little brother still kind of teases me to this day because he said that I had the trifecta going on during that time with my physical appearance. I had braces, I had a jerry curl, and I had acne at once.
Jerry curl. That says it all right there.
Yeah, I've rocked the jerry curl for years, and I've rocked it proudly, let me tell you. But yeah, no, it was.
You have to change your bed sheet every night.
You know what? This is the thing. When you rock a curl, you get very savvy with how you do things. You watch what you put your head on. You got plastic covers for things. So tricks of the trade. So you don't leave grease everywhere. But it might be too much information. But yeah, so I was a nerdy kid, always into school and stuff like that. I wasn't very popular. I mean, I was popular enough, meaning I had my group of friends. We were kind of in music class together, band or orchestra. But, I wasn't that kid growing up that was popular. And yeah, I was teased and picked on. I was made fun of because of who I was and who I wasn't. So yeah, that's something I definitely experienced. Absolutely.
Now, when did medicine get introduced to you? When did you decide that medicine is for me? This is what I want to do. I want to make a career out of this.
Yeah. So, I was one of these kids who always wanted to be a little bit of everything. I wanted to be a musician, but I also wanted to be a teacher and a nurse and a doctor and a candlestick maker and everything in between.
Candlestick maker. Okay.
I'd read about something in school. I'd read about space and be like, okay, I'm going to be an astronaut, which is, I think it's common for kids to do. And I was like that, though, for a lot of things. But the one thing about becoming a doctor, my family doctor, the doctor who took care of me and my parents, my brother, his name was Dr. Johnson, and he still is an African-American physician. He was the only Black doctor I really knew, and I thought what he did was amazing. He did house calls. He would come over to our house in the middle of the night when my brother was having asthma attacks, or he would just at any moment of any day, and he would come with his medicine bag, and he would just sort of make everything better. And we saw him in the office. I mean, it was really amazing what he did. Admired him. And I think what happened was, seeing him work and seeing what he did over the years really inspired me to want to do some of that too. So it was from a young age where I got planted the seed, and it really wasn't until I was a little bit older that things got okay.
Okay, so let's fast forward. You graduate from Princeton University, you get into medical school, and you're realizing that this is for you. Did you ever envision your life as it is right now while you were in medical school, where you would be obviously practicing, taking care of people, but now it's almost like you have like a practice on a worldly level where you're able to reach so many people at the same time? Did you kind of think that was where your career would be heading?
I don't know that I've actually gotten that question before. You're basically asking if I ever imagined that what's happening now would happen. And interestingly enough, when I was a resident was when I started getting involved. No, actually a medical student. I started getting involved in medical media. I would see the news broadcast every now and then, and I would just wonder how did they pick that story, that health story to talk about? And so who's reading those studies and who's interpreting that data? And how are they deciding how to present this information? And it was literally when I was a medical student, obviously, I was starting to get in my clinical years, and every question became relevant, including that. I think that it was around that time that I started saying, this might be interesting. I had some background doing things. I competed in the Miss America pageant about 20 years ago. That was a little bit of a detour and a few other things.
That's pretty interesting, though, because obviously you're used to being in front of the TV. You're used to being in these type of high pressure situations. So it's really interesting to learn that about you, actually.
Let me also tell people who may be listening, I just told you that I was a consummate nerd, right? And then I'm saying, but I competed in Miss America 20 years ago. And one of the things is that for me, that was probably one of the most surprising and unexpected things of my life. I was 20 years old before I did my first pageant, and really only did 4 in my entire pageant career, so to speak. From 20 to 21, I was a sophomore at Princeton. I did it because I found out that Miss America is the world organization for women. And I needed money to pay for school. I mean, at Princeton, I worked in a dining hall. I delivered newspapers at one point. I worked in the music department. I played cello gigs. I did all this stuff to make money. I was a resident advisor, to get money to pay. My parents are teachers, and we didn't have all the money we needed and couldn't really afford it. So I was working all sorts of jobs. And the woman at my church in Iowa who said, "Hey, look, we're looking for a local pageant." I was like, "Oh, geez," I was like, I don't think I rolled my eyes in front of her. That would have been rude. But I think in my mind, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?" But I learned that Miss America is the world's largest scholarship organization for women. And
really,
as a cellist and a musician, yeah, that's why I did it. That's why I entered. When I was a sophomore in college, I entered pageants. I didn't tell anyone. I told friends I was doing this. I think I was worried about what people would think. I didn't know what I thought because it was so different than anything I ever thought that I was. But I had an amazing experience. I ended up winning the title of Miss Iowa and competing in Miss America in 1999. I didn't win the title of Miss America. I didn't even come close. But it was an amazing experience. And I spent that year, once I got back from Miss America, traveling around the state of Iowa, serving as a public representative, speaking schools, ribbon cutting ceremonies, things like that. So when I say that a few years later, which is, I guess, I'm trying to think, maybe 3-4 years later, I'm a med student and I'm watching the news and who decides what studies are talked about and how they're talked about? It suddenly seemed like something that I may be able to contribute to because of experience I'd gotten being this sort of public representative and doing public work as Miss Iowa, To go back to your original question, which was, did I ever imagine my life would be what it is now? I think the answer is yes and no. Early in medical school, when I started formulating these thoughts, I started hoping it would be. I started realizing I wanted to communicate health information outside of just as much as I wanted to practice. Well, not just as much, but I did want to do that. Did I know if it would happen? I didn't. I say every day, for opportunities and the opportunities I've been given, because it's really a dream come true to do something that I feel is important.
Now that you're on like the Today Show, you've been on obviously multiple times with Dr. Oz, Rachel Ray, all of these different shows. Now that you've seen the other side of medicine, I guess medicine in a journalistic fashion, what are your thoughts on medicine as a whole? Do you still have like that naivete when you first got into it? Do you look at it more as a business? What are your thoughts now since you've been on that side compared to how it was maybe when you were a medical student or even a resident or even, in your first years as being an attending?
Interestingly enough, it's no different. In fact, it's just as important to me being a physician and actually being on the ground practicing medicine. I see patients a couple days a week. So I'm an associate professor at Rowan University School of Osteopathic Medicine, academic physician. I've been in practice for about 10 years now. I can't 10 years, just, oh my gosh. My mind,
time for
when
research.
I think about that, I'm like, oh my God.
Time for your recertifications.
Actually, I already did that because we researched at 7 years. I'm a DO, so we did 7 years, like 7 years out of research. So I'm good for a little bit. Yeah, so I see patients a couple of days a week. I teach a course. I'm the clerkship director for the third year family medicine students at Rowan University School of Osteopathic Medicine, and I do media the other times. What I would say is that my time in the office seeing patients is still the most important time. It's what allows me to be on TV. It's what guides my perspective. It's what gives me experience. The thing I really wanted to do in the first place, I came into this wanting to be a doctor. Once I was on that path, I started wondering about medical communications, but my desire to practice and to see patients has not changed. And I always said that if you're on the news talking about health, you better be in an office somewhere doing it. I think it's really important to have that practical experience and to really be on the ground. And honestly, there's nothing better than, this is for me. I always think in some ways, being a doctor for me was better than even what I imagined. I know that sometimes it's tough for physicians because we get out and
let's spend some time on that.
Okay.
I think that nowadays everybody is looking for a way to get out of medicine for valid reasons, right? For valid reasons. And then there's some that are, that's just everybody's personal choice. But I want to hear from you why you feel like, because you rarely hear that, right? Like people say like, man, like you're on TV, you're doing all these different things. You go from, South Jersey to Philadelphia all the time and stuff like that's got to be, a really great experience. But you really are saying that you're relishing your time, treating patients and stuff. Let's talk more about that.
I love it. I love being a doctor actually more than I thought I would as a medical student, as a resident. I'll be honest with you. I was one of these med students in residence. I did well, but I'd grown up saying, okay, I think this is what I want to do. And actually, when I got into med school and residency, I had some doubts. I wondered, I said, is this what I want to do? Wait, what did I sign up for? I had some doubts. I wasn't sure, and I was still just as interested in being a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, and a candlestick maker in residency and med school as I was before. I've always been someone who's just interested in a lot of different things. And I think I wondered if I'd made the right decision. For me, being a doctor has been better than I actually ever imagined, been more rewarding. Yeah.
Were there any mentors or any colleagues, fellow residents that you could lean on and say, hey, look, this is what I feel. Do you feel the same way? Am I crazy or anything like that?
Yeah, I didn't tell anyone. I'll just be honest with you. I didn't tell anybody. I think there's sometimes a lot of pressure, especially when you're in med school and residency, to be, for lack of a better word, perfect, right? To be the ideal medical student, to be the ideal resident. I was afraid to tell people. I wondered if I made the right choice, that I wasn't sure how I felt. I didn't know if I was going to like what I'd sign up for. No, I didn't tell people. I didn't. What I did was I explored options that also seemed interesting to me, and that's what helped. That's when I interested in medical media. I started writing articles for patients, lay articles about like colds and flus and, how to keep your kids healthy at daycare and things like that. And that really inspired me and was good for me as I was going through medical school. When I was a resident, I started what was it called? Now they're called blogs. But before, I just had like this 15 years ago that I built up this little mailing list and would write little newsletters on, why the flu shot doesn't cause the flu or whatever. My attendings would read my little newsletters just to make sure I wasn't giving out misinformation because I was still a resident. And I would publish it. And, these were things that really helped me, and I think in many just different ways. What I came to understand was coming out and practicing. I love medicine. Do I think it's hard? Yes. Do I think that we don't get reimbursed the way we should? Yes. Do I think there's too much paperwork? Do I think it's emotionally exhausting and the burnout rate is high and I get why it's high? Do I feel like that sometimes? Absolutely. I mean, all of that, just like everyone else. But the practice of medicine, I mean, those days in the office where you feel like you've made a difference in someone's life, I can't imagine a better gift to be able to be a part of. I'm not going to say gift to give because it's not just me, I feel like I'm sort of a vessel and just maybe someone hopefully who's here to guide someone through their health in a way that's productive. I just feel like it's a blessing. I thank God every day. I feel like, wow, to get to do this, I feel is an honor. Do I feel frustrated and tired and overwhelmed and at times sad and wondering if I should go on? Yes, I felt that way too. Everything's not always coming up roses, but I can't imagine it better.
Now, for those listening who are looking at you and they're like, wow, I want to get to that point. I want to be able to, have a schedule where I can take care of people, take care of patients, and maybe do something in medical journalism or medical media, as you call it. Do you still think the method that you took, the route that you took, is still a viable route to get to that level? Writing, creating your own platforms, starting to write like really small tidbits and then eventually maybe getting exposed. Do you recommend any other methods?
I do think that that's a way to do it. And I think that, yes, there are other ways as well. The universe has changed, obviously, in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, we didn't, early 2000s, when I was going through medical school and kind of getting started, we didn't have Instagram and any of this stuff. I mean, if we had MySpace, right? I don't even know if we had I didn't even have a MySpace account, so I didn't even know what that was. The nice thing is that there are so many more ways to get a message out on a very large and wide level than there ever have been before, which is wonderful. And you don't have to start small. Shoot, if you can start big, start big. I'm not a hater. You don't have to grovel if you don't need to. Me, my path was starting small. And for me, that was also important because it helped me build my voice and figure out who I was.
Yeah, I like that point.
I think a lot of people will look at my Instagram or look at stuff and they'll say, oh, they might sort of mistakenly think that this happened. It just happened because I wanted it to. Well, no, it's taken 15 years to finally get to the point where I'm on TV this regularly. And it's day in and day out. There's not necessarily money in TV. There's not even necessarily money in writing articles. There's a lot of places that don't even pay for this stuff. A lot of people have ideas about what it is and what it's not, and it may not be true.
I think that's a big misconception that people have. Like they think like as soon as they get on TV, like they're going to get paid, they're going to make it rain. So I'm glad you're putting it out there.
That's not how. What I want people to understand is that what should drive you is your mission. what should drive you, and I'm going to get to answer your question, which is about what should drive you is your true passion. And the reason why it's fine if true passion doesn't drive you, but the reason why I say that is because it's like medical school. I feel like if you don't really want to be a doctor, this stuff is way too hard to do it if you really don't want to.
Dr. Jen, you could be yourself on the show. Don't worry.
I'm trying to keep it clean over here.
Keep it 100%. This is Docs Outside the Box. Come on now, be yourself.
Yeah, I guess right. I guess that's what it is. But media is a grind. I pitch myself. I pitch stories all the time. I'm constantly replying to requests and pitching things. I'm always told no. And there are a few times I'm told yes, and those are the times. But people don't see the behind the scenes.
So even at this point, you still get no's?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's like a daily basis. Think about it. And producers and writers and things like that, if the pitch doesn't fit what they're looking to do, there's often a no or thank you, but no thank you. And sometimes not even a response, or maybe they found someone else to do the story, or maybe they like the story, but this is not the right time. So that happens all the time. And that's just the nature of media. And also media is changing every single day with how our world is working. So, I mean, the idea is that, yes, you still hear no's. There's still disappointment and, oh, that's a shame. I wasn't able to do this or wasn't able to do that or blah, blah, blah. I mean, look, it's not always coming up roses, but for me, it's always worth it because it's my chance to spread information that I think is really important that people need to hear. So yeah, it's part of it. And that's why I say, if you're doing it for fame or fortune or something else, I would say there are probably easier and less painful ways and more productive, efficient ways to get to fame and fortune. You should do this because you want to. Same with medicine, though. It's the same with medicine.
Now, I've just noticed that you have your own YouTube channel now. What's it like to be on video? Obviously, video is king right now, but to basically be able to talk to the masses on your own terms, on your own schedule. What are your thoughts on YouTube and video and, like you said, Instagram and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's great because it allows us all to have our own voices. And by the way, I would love for people to come visit all my social media is at Dr. Jen Caudle. You can find me at youtube.com/Dr. Jen Caudle. So my YouTube channel for years has really been a compilation of all of my videos from TV, whether it's the Today Show or the Dr. Oz Show or CNN or Fox or whatever. And it's only recently that I actually started kind of creating my own content, which is something I realized was kind of the next step for me and something I needed to do. It's wonderful being able to go on and talk about a topic, but it's also nice to be able to kind of create your own. So I've created a series called the Be Your Own Doctor series, which, one of the reasons why I love being a family doctor is because we deal with kind of like the complicated stuff and also the simple stuff. I like giving people advice on how to deal with their wart or, how to get rid of dry skin and keep their skin from drying out in the winter, along with heart failure and all the other stuff that we help manage, right? Renal disease, et cetera. And so I wanted to create a series for people at home who are trying to solve common problems for their own doctors. So it's been a lot of fun kind of going through that process and creating my own content. And I think it's good. I think it's important for us to use our voices to express ourselves and also to spread health information. I do think there's a way to do it, I think the key with people, especially professionals and physicians and stuff like that, is how you do it and what is right for you in your practice and where you're working. But I'm a fan. I think it's just sort of opened up the world, honestly.
I love it. I'm a big fan. And that's part of the reason why I podcast now. Eventually, though, I would love to start having my interviews in video and putting that on YouTube. But a brother can dream.
Oh,
a brother can
cool.
dream. One thing I want to ask you.
Well, you could totally do it. I think it's great. Oh,
If I got your support, then I'm down with it. I need you to help me with it. So
yes.
The thing that I wanted to ask you about is, before we got into this part about YouTube, is you talked about pitching and pitches. There are people out there who maybe are like, well, what exactly does that mean? So what exactly is a pitch? Is this a pitch that you're doing through email or through LinkedIn? Like, can you take us through that process?
Sure. And you're also reminding me that I didn't actually answer a question that you asked me before about how did I get started, and this may help with the pitching concept. I started writing articles for like local papers when I was in local magazines, when I was a resident. My attendings would kind of read those articles and make sure they were medically sound, and that continued. I did a couple of news internships, or rather rotations. So 1 month during my fourth year, I believe I was a fourth year student, I did an elective rotation instead of at a hospital. I did it at Channel 6 ABC News here in Philadelphia. And I'd heard that this was an option through another medical student who had done it. And I spent 1 month going to the TV station and kind of learning how things work there, going out with reporters, riding in the van, learning how they wrote stories, how they did things. It was very interesting. And then I also did another rotation when I was an intern. I had another elective that I did at ABC News Network. And that was when Dr. Tim Johnson was the medical correspondent for ABC News Network. And we were out of Massachusetts. And I was in the medical unit and I helped write stories for abcnews.com. I did some on-air appearances for their streaming network, abcnewsnow.com. This was back like in 2006 or so. It really gave me a lot of experience in understanding how stories are put together, how to get medical information, how to read studies and how to interpret them. Those were really great experiences. And it really fueled my interest in continuing to do this work. So when I talk about pitches now, it's the idea of saying to a reporter or a producer or a writer, hey, what do you think about doing a story on this topic? You know, the flu is widespread in so many states right now. The CDC says this. This is what people can do, blah, blah, blah. So that's what a pitch is. It is pitching a story, saying, this is something I think is important, something I think people should know about. You know, what do you think about doing a story about this? I'd love to help out. So that's what a pitch is.
Gotcha. And then you're reaching out to them, you're reaching out to producers, like an executive producer, am I correct?
No, not usually executive producers. Actually, they're not the ones that usually deal with pitches. It's producers, it's writers, it's associate producers. And many of these are people who I've developed relationships with over the years. So it's one of the reasons why, you know, in some ways media is like medicine, where relationship building is very important in meeting people and networking and exchanging important. So yeah, in fact, it's never executive producers. It's always producers, associate producers, writers, etc. Yeah.
What's it like working with Dr. Oz? What's he like up close? Is the personality very similar to being a cardiothoracic surgeon, or is it like a TV persona? What's that like?
What's he like? Yeah. So I feel really lucky. I mean, I've been going on the Dr. Oz show since about 2012, and I've done 34 or 35 appearances on the Dr. Oz show since then. I mean, it's been really amazing. I feel really, really blessed. I love Dr. Oz, the person. He is so warm and so friendly and so kind and so welcoming. And when I go to that show, one of the reasons why I like going on the show is half of it is to see him and his staff and his producers. I mean, many of the producers I've grown up with. I mean, they were producing me 5 years ago and they still are now. So these are people who actually become your friends, people that you exchange with, that you get coffee with because you work together so much. And I really enjoy working with Dr. Oz. I had a chance to meet his wife, Lisa Oz, in the green room backstage one time because she was actually doing a segment the day I was there. And I got to meet her, and she was just as kind and just as lovely. And it's really awesome. You know, one of my things that I often say, and people like on my Facebook, social media is very important to me. I try to respond to almost everybody who writes. And I pretty much try to respond to almost every comment, every message, appropriate, every like. And I always like to hear what people think. And sometimes people will ask me, they'll be like, well, why do you go on Dr. Oz? Or why do you go on Fox News? Or why do you go on CNN? Or why do you, they don't think I should? Or why do I do all the different networks or what have you? And I'll tell you, my stance has always been that as long as I'm able to share an evidence-based message and I'm able to use my words and my voice and my perspective, I welcome different platforms. And for me, it's an opportunity. I'm going to reach people on Fox News that I don't reach on CNN. I'm going to reach people on Dr. Oz that I don't reach on HLN. I'm going to reach people on local Fox that I don't reach on Fox New York. And so for me, it's almost like being a doctor. What do? We see everybody. We treat everybody.
That's a good point.
You walk through the door, and no matter who you are, we take you as you are, and we try to make it better. And that's my purpose, medical broadcasting and spreading missions. This is why I go on so many different networks, is because as long as you let me say what I think is important, say what's right and true, and for the most part, it's something that I want to do is make sure that I'm reaching different people. It's been a really great ride. It's been interesting. It's been a lot of fun. And like I said, it feels like a gift because it's something I always dreamed about doing.
I love it. That's a great point, actually. Really good point. Let me ask you this question then. Do you ever have any dreams of you, Dr. Jen Caudle, having your own TV show on ABC or Fox or NBC or anything like that?
Yes. Yeah, I'm like, let me interrupt you to tell you just how much.
Hey, say yes again, please.
Yes and yes.
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's always, I mean, I can't even lie. I've wanted the show for a long, long time. And I've had opportunities where I've been approached by casting folks and been in the running for different things. It hasn't worked out yet, but putting it out in the universe God probably is like, you again. We know what you, probably like you again. We know what you want. Just putting it out in the universe again. No, it's been always my dream come true to either have a regular show or be on a show. So it's something that, I always keep my fingers crossed will happen. And I know that if it never does, that I've had so many amazing opportunities that, to be honest with you, like you said before, I never thought that I'd be able to have done what I have done. If I weren't to do any more, I still feel very, 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 very lucky.
That's real talk. I really appreciate you being honest with that answer.
Yeah, I can't lie about it.
So we're getting towards the end of this interview. Let's do some fast fire questions. I ask you a question. You just tell me what comes off the top of your head. Don't think too hard about it. Is that cool?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So if we were going to parse down this episode, this podcast into one important thing, what's the most important thing you want the listeners to get from this podcast?
Do what you're passionate about. Follow your passions, because that will always lead you to the right place.
Well, since you brought up MySpace and how life was back in the early 2000s and so forth, if you got a chance to meet student Dr. Jen Caudle back then with the knowledge that you had now, what kind of advice would you have given yourself, even as a pre-med or even as a med student?
I would have told her that everything's going to be okay. That's what I would have told her.
What's a personal habit that has helped you be more successful?
Working my rear end off. Work. You know that Rihanna song?
Hustle. Yeah, work. Yep.
Work.
If I didn't have to pay for royalties, I'd have that on the show. That'd be one of the soundtracks on the show right now.
Right.
All right. Okay. So Dr. Jen, you've gotten to meet some really famous people. I'm really interested in your answer. So if you had an opportunity to trade places with anybody that you either admire, someone that you find inspirational, name a famous figure that you wouldn't mind trading places with for 24 hours.
Ooh, now you got me. Yeah, I'm not much of a trade places type of girl, because I know everybody got problems. So I'm a little bit like,
Yep.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not trying to be self-righteous. I'm just trying to say, and as we know this in medicine, it's like, grass isn't always greener. But in terms of like someone's job that I would certainly love, right? It's easier for me to think about it like that, right? Someone's job that I would love, be like Wendy Williams. Yeah, I would want to be Wendy. I mean, whether it's gossip, which, I'm not the biggest fan of gossip, but I did grow up listening to Wendy Williams. I actually DVR her show every single day because I love it. And it's just my thing. But I would love to have a talk show like Wendy Williams. That's really my point. That's what I could do. Yep.
From a doctor's perspective, that'd be really interesting, actually, right? Like if you could be if you be a doctor and you have that type of energy out there, that'd be actually pretty fly, actually.
It wouldn't be bad. It would not be bad.
It's pretty interesting from my standpoint, too, because I grew up in New Jersey, right outside of a town called Irvington. So, seeing Wendy Williams become like, obviously she was this radio star.
Right.
Now, like,
right. With like Hot 97, right?
Yeah, Hot 97. Yep. Hot 97. Yep. And even Charlemagne,
Yes.
Watching them all now. Yes. And it's just amazing to see, how life changes and stuff. But, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel you.
Okay, Dr. Jen Caudle, I want you to complete this sentence. I'm not just a doc. I'm a...
Oh, there's so many things running through my head right now. A few of them include, I'm a lover of pizza and burgers.
Okay.
I love being outdoors. I'm thinking of everything from like what I like to eat to what I like to do. I love to travel. I love people. I really do love people, and I love to be around. And I get a lot of energy from that. And back to the pizza and burgers, favorite foods ever. And I love movies. Oh my God.
I hope it's New York style pizza.
You know what? I do New York style pizza because I grew up like in my formative years were like on the East Coast, but growing up in Iowa, all we had was like Pizza Hut, Godfather's, etc. So I'm also like well adept to like you don't like that kind of pizza?
The deep dish you're talking about?
Yeah. You're not a fan?
I'm a fan, but I grew up in New York, so I like the New York style, the Brooklyn style pizza. I don't know if you can tell my accent is coming out,
No, these pregnant pauses have me, you're like, no, you're like a group in New York. So I can, it's a serious matter. So I can do both. I like both, actually.
Dr. Jen, this has been a really great experience talking to you. But also, the one thing that I want to highlight with you is we got a little giveaway that we're going to be doing at the end of this show. So, like, in addition to your work, what you're doing in medicine, it looks like you've gone ahead and you've created a clothing line, right? And it's out there trying to get people to really be inspired and really to motivate. And it looks as though the proceeds from every t-shirt is going to basically fund a scholarship in the name of Henry and Esther Caudle at Lane College, which is historically Black college university. Do you want to take some time and talk more a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. And thank you for supporting that. I really appreciate it. I personally love swag. I'm a swag type of girl. And I also love anything that's monogrammed or that has writing on it. I know it's so corny, but I do. So I'm that girl who loves like t-shirts with like motivational saying. And when I was thinking about how I could give back, my parents' scholarship is something that's always been very important to me. They met at Lane College, which is in Jackson, Tennessee. It's an HBCU, a small college. Their passion has been lately in the last 10 years or so is having a scholarship for students there. And I always give and am always looking for ways to give back even more. And I said, well, what could I do to combine some of this interest for swag and supporting this? I created this line of motivational t-shirts for men and women, just motivational sayings to kind of get you up and get you motivated, and whether it's to the gym or to the grocery store or wherever you got to go. But a portion of the proceeds from each sale goes to, as you mentioned, the Henry and Esther Caudle Scholarship Foundation, which is my parents' scholarship there. I'm really, really excited about it and hope that people feel, inspired and also that they're able to give back. So yeah, you can find the shirts on my website. It's drjencaudle.com/shop. So that's where you can go.
I went ahead. The shirts are fire, by the way. So I went ahead and purchased some t-shirts to help the cause, and also at the same time allow some listeners who are really dedicated to go ahead and get those shirts. So for those who are listening, all you got to do is make sure you're listening to the show, take a screenshot of you listening to the show, and send it to me through Instagram stories or even through Facebook or even Twitter. Make sure you tag Docs Outside the Box or Dr. Nee Darko, as well as Dr. Jen Caudle also. Tag us and let us know that you're listening to this episode, and we will get a t-shirt out to you. So pretty excited about this.
Oh, yay. Me too. And thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.
So Dr. Jen, if the audience wants to either continue to follow you, get in touch with you, just kind of see how things are going with you in your life, how do they get in contact with you? How do they follow you?
Okay, so I love interacting with folks. I would love to hear from you. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, you name it, at Dr. Jen Caudle. That's DrJenCaudle. And my Facebook page is at Dr. Jennifer Caudle on Facebook. So reach out to me, send me emails, send me a note, let me know what you're doing and what you thought of the podcast.